And let me get to Hagar Shamali, former director of Syria and Lebanon at the White House National Security Council and former spokesperson for the U.S. mission to the United Nations. Hagar, you served on the National Security Council during the Arab Spring and the start of the Syrian civil war back in 2011. How do you see this moment?
Well, I have mixed feelings, to be honest with you. Back then, when I was handling this at the very beginning, I used to say that it was not a matter of if, but when Assad would fall. And I was wrong a little bit back then, obviously, because it took 13 years. And so on one hand, I am overjoyed to see this brutal dictator and war criminal run like a coward to Moscow, where he's not going to be able to leave anytime soon unless it's to vacation in North Korea. And so on one hand, I'm happy to see that, and I'm watching the people in the street and watching these prisons get released, in particular those political prisoners who've been detained and tortured, some of whom for up to 50 years, by the way. This dates back for the entire oppression and oppressive rule of Bashar al-Assad and his father, Hafez al-Assad. So I'm excited to see that. But I'm very, very cautious and very concerned about Syria's future. And I would be remiss not to mention that, because Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the Islamist militia group that has taken Damascus, is an Islamist militia group. And while they have disavowed ties with global terrorism and certainly cut ties with al-Qaeda, that doesn't mean that it is not seeking some kind of control that would be led by a conservative, if not extreme Sunni ideology, as they have controlled that way in the northwest of Syria up until today. And so, and in addition to that is the fact that you have many other rebel groups and others and other militias across Syria that seek to pursue their agenda when you have a power vacuum. And so very exciting for them, but also I'm very, very concerned.
Yeah, let me ask you more about that power vacuum, because on the day Assad's regime fell, the U.S. carried out 75 strikes against ISIS targets. What is the risk of a group like ISIS reestablishing a foothold, and how can that be avoided?
Yeah, the risk is high. I'm glad you asked about this, because when we defeated ISIS in 2018, and we did so with our coalition partners, and most importantly, the Kurds on the ground, that's a very important ally of ours. And since that time, we have about just under 1,000 U.S. troops who are stationed in northeast Syria to support the Kurds in their efforts to back them, and also to protect them against the Turks, who don't want to see them there, and most importantly, to support them in this to prevent the reemergence of ISIS, because while it was defeated, you still have fighters who disbanded and went away, and they don't disappear even if the organization doesn't control the area anymore. And so the priority of the Biden administration and the U.S. right now is to ensure the continued protection of those Kurds and their support, and to prevent the reemergence of ISIS, to make sure that they don't, to nip that in the bud, that they don't have any opportunity to seek to try and make a reemergence or pursue attacks given this power vacuum. And then that's going to be the priority of the Biden administration. That and I hope, in addition to that, the release of American journalist Austin Tice, who is believed to be alive and well and was being detained by the Syrian government.
Yeah, he's believed to be alive, according to President Biden, who was asked specifically about Austin Tice just yesterday. But he also signaled that they're still working to confirm some information related to his whereabouts, his status, et cetera. The Biden administration has said it's not going to rule out taking HTS, this rebel group, which has previously had ties to al-Qaeda and other perhaps extremist organizations, that they aren't ruling out taking it off the list of foreign terrorist organizations. What do you make of that? And I mean, I'm hearing you say HTS cannot be trusted.
Well, yeah, and to be fair, you can disavow global terrorism and your ties with al-Qaeda, meaning you're not going to seek to pursue terrorist operations abroad for a political or ideological goal. And you can still be a pretty extreme Islamist militia that rules in a repressive Islamic way, right, in an extreme way, and the proof is in the pudding. We can only watch how they governed the northwest of Syria, which is what they were governing up until today, obviously, and the way they governed, it wasn't like the Taliban. So I don't want to make it as extreme as that, but we have to understand that this is a group that considers themselves, quote, mild jihadists, that rule with this conservative, radical Islamic way. They, in the northwest of Syria, repressed minorities. They cracked down on freedom of speech. They jailed and tortured activists. And you had many women there who felt unsafe and left the northwest of Syria for that reason. They were not, though, required to, for example, to wear a veil. So, it's kind of somewhere in the middle, if you will. And we're just going to have to see if their actions speak louder than their words, because they've come out now to claim that they embrace diversity, that they understand the diversity of Syria, that there are many minority groups, Christians, Druze, other Shia factions. And like you said, or like Richard said, to this day, right now, they've kept fair to their word not to repress or threaten any minorities. But we'll just have to see. I mean, again, we have to look at their history, and I'm very concerned. And I have not seen an Islamist militia before stick to their word on this one. So we'll just have to see.